Hi, ladies. Happy Friday. I'm sure you already saw the email that I sent out this morning about HEC, or HEC is kind of what we call it. And I've been asking you to report your food and kind of tell me about that HEC all the time because when we're talking about fat loss and weight loss, HEC is really kind of the deal breaker. So if hunger, energy, and cravings are out of check, then fat loss will either not happen or will not be sustainable. So I'm sure you've all been on a diet where you're like starving all day, you're having energy slumps, you're craving like everything you can imagine. And that's the main difference between weight loss and fat loss. So the goal is to get your HEC in check and lose fat. But sometimes HEC is in check and you're not losing fat. And so that's where I'll play with other things that are going on, sleep, stress, and carbs. So like those are the main things. So I sent that email out this morning and I mentioned that there are 4 key things that make up a fat loss food. And so I gave everybody the HEC. And so because you're in my club, I wanted to give you the other 3. And also let you know that I uploaded a HEC tracker for a month, and just starting on Monday, I'm just going to challenge you to track it for a week. So try to note the times, the food, and how you're feeling as far as HEC, and then report back to me, because what that's going to do is going to help me see, yes, are you balanced? No, you're not. What can we do? And then if you are balanced, are you losing fat? So at that point, you'll want to take your measurements. And if not balanced, then there's lots of things that we can do to kind of play with it. HEC also kind of helps me with trigger foods. So nuts are a huge trigger food for me. So one nut leads to the entire can on my end, and my fat loss completely stalls. So nuts are not something that is a good food for me. Dairy is a trigger food for me. I cannot eat just an ounce of cheese. Like, I want the whole block. That's what's going to happen. So those are just things that we can kind of play with, and everybody's going to be different. So that's why it's important for you to report back in the group to me so I can help you. So on to fat loss foods. So we know the most important thing is HEC. So keeping the hunger sustained for more than 2 hours, energy up, and cravings minimized. So of course we're all going to crave things, especially around that time of the month. But if we're constantly craving coffee, chocolate, diet soda, those things, that means we're kind of out of whack. The next thing for a fat loss food means it's high in protein, high in fiber, and high in water content. So broccoli is an example of a fat loss food. Not the most appetizing. I don't love broccoli, but that's an example of a fat loss food. Chicken breast, high in protein, not much fiber, but high in water, and those are the things that are going to fill you up the most, satiate you, and kind of keep the HEC in check. So when you think of foods, think of, is it high in protein, is it high in fiber, and is it high in water? Which is why the whole myth of complex carbs over other carbs are better, and that's not necessarily true, because complex carbs have a lot of sugar. They have very little water content, even though they're complex and made from whole grains. It's not really better, and that's a huge myth that's out there right now. When you think of low sugar fruits, berries, apples, those have very low sugar, high water, high fiber, and those are going to fill you up more. So think of those things. The next one is low sugar, low starch, and low fat. Now, I didn't say no fat, or no sugar, or no starch, but you want to think of lower. So the bomb would be a sugar and starch together, like a donut, French fries. Those are like complete bombs when you combine sugar and starch. And then fats, there's the Atkins diet, and that was a craze, for a few years. I eat a higher fat diet, but that's because I also eat a lower carb, because fat satiates me more. But I can't go too high, because then I'll stall my fat loss. So that's something to play with, but you never want to go too high in sugar, starch, or fiber. And starches, we'll be going over them a lot in the next month as we kind of break the cycle, because that's kind of our theme for the month. So we'll get into that more. But of course, if you have questions, feel free to post. The next one and the last one is low food reward. So fat loss foods are not something that you crave. Like, they're not the creamy or the salty or the crunchy foods that you come home from work and you're like, oh, I gotta have it. Fat loss foods just don't do that for you. No one craves chicken breast. No one craves broccoli. No one craves berries. they just don't have that reward. And while food at some point has that emotional tie and we love to eat and everything's kind of set around food, when it comes to fat loss, you really don't live to eat, you eat to live. And so that's kind of the shift that we have to kind of get through. And I'll be honest, there are times when I live for my cheat meal. I live for chips and salsa, like I live for that stuff, but I don't live for it every day. So waking up every morning and just kind of eating to get through the day is very different than that emotional tie to the afternoon snack when you get home. So kind of fat loss has that difference than when you're on a diet and you're like looking forward to the food and it has that reward in your body through your emotions. Like it's salty, it's crunchy. And so those are the main 4 things that I wanted to cover. So HEC, high fiber, high protein, high water, low sugar, low starch, low fat, and low food reward. So those are that's kind of like the basic of what a fat loss food is. So I wanted to give you that so you can kind of think about it when you're making your choices. And like I said, the theme for this month is breaking the cycle, so kind of escaping the diet trap. And I'll be posting videos and sending lots of emails about ways that we're going to do that. And enjoy the workouts, post, and have a fantastic weekend.